Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my wrap up for week 4 of New Worlds November, which was all about dystopian and apocalyptic stories. New Worlds November has been a lot of fun. It was created by the Bookish Bryants, and I was very happy to help co-host along with all of our other great co-hosts. And I also want to talk about some of the highlights, some of the best stories that I read this month, and kind of wrap up New Worlds November. Hi, Loki. And so first, let's talk about the apocalyptic stories. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I read 10 short stories in the 4th week of November. Let me tell you about them. The longest story I read was 75 pages. I read Waiting Out Winter by Kelly Owen, and this is a self-published apocalyptic story about a plague that is carried by flies, and it is really hard to keep flies out of your house. So all summer long they're trapped inside. They have to always keep their ears open for buzzing and stuff so they don't get bit. If they get bit by a fly, then they get a disease and they die. Terrible. Terrible, terrible. And in the winter, the flies are gone, but then they have to make it through the winter without heat or utilities of any kind, really. So they have to get through winter and figure out what they're going to do when the flies come back in the summer. So that is what this is about. It was a really, really good story, very creepy. And I saw at the end of this that there is a sequel to this called The Hatch that has a plague of spiders that come to eat all of the flies. So I'm going to have to check that one out for sure. I read Repent Harlequin, Said the TikTok Man by Harlan Ellison, which was a very strange story about a future in which everyone is obsessed with being orderly, on time. Time is the biggest thing, and the world is led by this leader called the TikTok Man, and he keeps track of how precise people's timing is. If you're late to work or late on a deadline, there are severe repercussions that get worse and worse as time goes on. Very interesting story, and it was a bit of a commentary on individualism, not being exactly like everyone else, and sticking to the same schedule all the time. Interesting. The Lottery by Shirley Jackson was another really interesting story, and this is a future that I want no part of. In this dystopian future, society has started this yearly ritual in which the head of every family has to put their name into a drawing, and one person gets pulled, and let's just say this one had a real emotional punch, and it was a pretty messed up future. Let's just say that. Inventory by Carmen Maria Machado is a story I read from her collection, Her Body and Other Parties, and this was an interesting way to look at an apocalypse. There's this deadly disease spreading throughout the people, and she's telling kind of the story of this epidemic through a list of people she has been vulnerable with, has been intimate with throughout her entire life. So it starts off normal society, and then things kind of devolve as she's telling the stories of when she was with these certain people. An interesting way to tell the story, but maybe not my favorite way to tell the story. Next, I read Welcome to the Monkey House by Kurt Vonnegut. This was my first Kurt Vonnegut stories, and I will be reading more soon, in January probably, maybe December. But Welcome to the Monkey House is about a time in the future when everyone is taking medication that is basically birth control because of overpopulation. And it doesn't make people incapable of having children. It makes them not enjoy it. It makes them pretty much so it's not pleasurable. And there's these people that abstain from taking the medication, and they're called the nothing heads, because they take nothing. And some of the nothing heads stories they are doing very unscrupulous things. Anyways, I didn't love this story. I thought some parts were really good. Like, there was this really interesting humor that Kurt Vonnegut used while looking at issues in society, I guess. But this was not my story. This was not it. But it had some good, positive things to say about it. I wish I could explain better, but it's hard. Okay. My favorite story, probably not surprising, was Octavia E. Butler's story, Speech Sounds. And this was dystopian, I guess, where humans might be apocalyptic, but more meh. Anyways, let me explain. This is about a disease that has gone through everybody on Earth, and the disease has taken speech away from everyone. So they're not able to communicate verbally. And some people, it affects people's brains. And most everybody cannot speak. Some cannot read, write. Things that they used to be able to do, or used to be really good at, and now they cannot do it at all. So, and it all has to do with the communication center of the brain. So, hello, kitty. Kitty, say hello. But yeah. So, this was such a cool story, and it starts on a city bus, and some sort of argument starts, and no one is able to properly explain their sides, and they have very hard time trying to keep the peace. And society has pretty much devolved because no more reading, writing, speaking. It's hard to get things done efficiently. But they still have city transit, so that's good. But they said they don't have police anymore, except for this guy shows up who has a police uniform, and he's kind of taken it upon himself to try to hand out justice, I guess. Keep the peace, keep people in line, and it's kind of his, even though there's no official police anymore, he's still trying to do his job, basically. And I just love this story. So, so, so good. In the typical Octavia E. Butler way. So, definitely check that one out. And another fantastic story I read during Dystopian Apocalyptic Week was One Day Only by Tananarive, which is another author that I have loved everything I've read from them so far. And One Day Only is about, again, a disease has gone through the population, and this woman wants to bring her neighbors together that are still alive for a comedy show. She wants to put on a comedy show and kind of bring some levity to this terrible situation, which is pretty cool. And it's about how they're going to let people know about it, and the difficulties, struggles with trying to get people together in this kind of an environment. Fantastic story. Highly recommend. And another really good story was The Plague. Oh yeah. That story was in this anthology, Wastelands, The New Apocalypse, as well as the rest of these. The next one I read from this was The Plague by Ken Liu, which is another disease story. And this one is well after a disease has gone through, and there are some humans that have evolved and are able to live in a polluted world, and the rest of the humans live in these dome bio environment things. A man from a dome comes out in a full suit, full biohazard suit, and his looking at the world outside, and meets a boy and sees how he has adapted, and he feels sorry for the boy and he wants to save the boy, but the boy does not want to be saved. He likes the way that they live. And I won't say more than that, but it is really cool. It is really cool how they have survived. The Hungry Earth by Carmen Maria Machado was a super short story. I wish there was more of it. It's about a invasion. I believe it's a alien invasion. of these birdmen that take over, and they force people to buy digital food instead of regular food. And the people don't do well with eating only digital food. Anyway, as you can imagine. So that is one interesting way for an apocalypse to go, I suppose. And The Future is Blue is the last story that I read from this, by Catherine M. Vellante. And this was such an imaginative post-apocalyptic world about a group of surviving humans that are living on a floating pile of garbage, basically. And it's like a dump. There's people that live in the trash is all sorted into different kinds, and there's different factions of people that live in the different areas of the garbage. And somehow two kids from different areas meet each other, despite like there's this whole class system going on, and they really like each other. It's a little bit of a cutesy love story, but not really. It's not super cute story. Apocalypse, yeah. Garbage. Living on garbage. It's not happy-go-lucky by any means. And then when a traveling show comes through, they get to find out what's going on with the rest of the world and humanity. So that was a fantastic story. I really loved that one as well. And so different from anything I've read before. So 2 thumbs up for that. So now that we've pretty much come to the end of New Worlds November, I want to just go over my favorite reads of the month. Things that I am super happy that I found out about and read. Like the very best of the best. And Bloodchild by Octavia E. Butler. All 3 stories I read from this were super fantastic. I can't wait to read the rest, and I am glad New Worlds November gave me the opportunity to start this short story collection. It's definitely a highlight of the month. As well as this anthology, The Time Traveler's Almanac. All of these stories were fantastic. I love them. This was an amazing anthology. And reading Binti Home, I love that series. The second book was so good. I can't wait to finish up the trilogy. I should probably do that now and get myself another series completed. That's an idea. I think I might do that. So I'd love to hear what your highlight of your reading in November was, whether it was science fiction or not. I'd love to hear what your favorite read was. Let's talk about it. And thank you to everyone who watched all my science fiction videos this month. And I will be back in December with my October wrap-up and watch wrap-up. Things I watched in October, since I didn't have time to get to those yet. So be looking forward to those, and I'll be back very soon. Thanks. Bye.